about home. They're married to real estate.
All right, welcome everyone. It's 2025.
Woo.
Ready to thrive in 25, Mary?
Ready to thrive.
Welcome back to Married to Real Estate. We've had some discussion about what we were going to do, if we were going to change up our podcast, and I think we're sticking with Married to Real Estate for now anyway, so stay tuned on that, everyone. But Mary, what's been going on?
Yeah, there's so much going on. It's unbelievable. But we're so excited about our guest today. So excited. But we'll get to that in just a
Yes, we
second.
will.
So pretty active in Rotary, setting up some fundraising committees and membership. And then I've been really kind of following this New England podcast group. They were meeting at the WestfordCAT.
Right, once a month on Saturdays.
Once a month, and what
I
a
have
powerful
yet to be able to
group.
make one of those.
Oh, you will make it. You will make it. They're going to come in February, the second Saturday in February. What a fun group.
Yeah.
And just amazing the number of people doing podcasts, and you have no idea. It's like
The creativity. Yeah.
the microphone that everybody gets to have, So much for that.
I know.
So much for that. So that's what's going on. And you, Mary, I know you've been busy. I know.
I had a really busy last quarter of 2024, and I have one listing now, and
Under contract, I saw.
Unfortunately, I sort of jumped the gun on that.
Okay.
My buyer backed out, so I'm back to open houses this
Okay.
weekend. But we had a couple of offers, and we were trying to negotiate the second one and just couldn't get there.
Okay.
So onward,
Onward and upward.
forward. Yes, exactly. But no, other than that, I'm on our agent leadership council again this year for the office. That's the top 20% producers in our office. So I'm excited about that. I like to be involved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So the office uses their top 20% as the leadership for the office and is encouraging other people, teams and individuals to, produce and get out there and sell, basically sell.
Right.
Serve the clients.
Yep. And help the other agents do that too.
So Mary, in August, and we'll hear more from our guest, in August, the state, Massachusetts, passed a law which removes a lot of possible restrictions to the development of accessory dwelling units.
Right. ADUs.
ADUs.
Which we're really excited about in real estate as agents. It's sort of one of those things that we're so excited. We can see the possibilities. We can see the need for it. And yet there's not a lot out there. And, as far as what to do, how to do it, how to help people get that done. So I'm very excited for our guest today.
And what's fascinating about Massachusetts, having been an outsider for so many years, is that each town gets their shot at what the state law is intending. And I live in Chelmsford, and today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Farokh Karani. And Farokh has actually been, I would say, in the forefront of the discussions from the residents' perspective on how the town implements the state law. And I'm so proud of Farokh. I have never met him. He set up a Facebook page.
Yep, I'm a member.
I know you are. I know you are.
Thank you.
And join us. Join the Chelmsford Facebook page. And I've just marveled at his ability to take a look at what's being proposed and to respond rationally. And after many, many years as an advocate for the elderly, or helping people be advocates for the elderly, I am again impressed by the advocacy skills of Mr. Farokh Karani. So Farokh, welcome today.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mary and Mary.
Mary. Yes, at the end you're an honorary Mary
Yep.
at the end of the end. So Farokh has been a resident of the town of Chelmsford for 12 years. He's came here to go to college and university and graduate school. He's been a businessman forever. Actually worked a stint at the Attorney General's office, which warms my heart, from an advocacy perspective. And Farokh, I just want to thank you as a resident of Chelmsford for taking the lead on this issue. And I'd like to just get a sense from you as to, what motivated you to step forward.
How did you get started?
Well, again, it's really funny because I'm a first-time homeowner in Chelmsford, and when I bought my house in Chelmsford, I knew nothing about zoning or lot size or whatever, or zoning restrictions, etc. And I bought a wonderful place in Chelmsford with 1 acre of land. And very frankly, from my perspective, I understand why there were these large lots when there was, septic and all that stuff. But now with sewage, I have 1 acre of land, and very frankly, I have to mow and trim half an acre for nothing. I mean, my
Right.
kids and I could be very happy in
A
half an
smaller-
acre and
Right.
not be restricted.
And paying taxes on that
Yeah,
whole
paying
acre.
taxes. Again, I'm paying taxes. I'm paying for trimming. I'm paying for mowing, and it's not being utilized. And so I went to the town of Chelmsford, and after a few years of mowing and things, maybe somebody else can use the other half. And I went to town hall and said, hey, I have this lot. What do I need to do to basically subdivide it so somebody else can use the other half? And they told me, oh, no. You have a minimum lot size. Again, that's when I first learned about this. And they're like, we could only subdivide it if you have a hardship and you have to seek a variance and all that stuff. I'm like, okay. And then I heard about, what used to be called LAAs, limited accessory apartments,
Yes.
for Chelmsford. But then they have huge restrictions. I think Chelmsford has one of the so-called worst LAA laws in the state, where you had to be, owner-occupied or owner-relative occupied. It had to be attached. It had to be, if you put a kitchen in there and the house was sold to a non-owner, the kitchen had to be demolished by deed, and it's just very restrictive.
Yes.
So I said, forget it. And then I saw what California was doing for ADUs over the last number of years, and I thought, this is an interesting topic. And then last year, with the Affordable Homes Act, the housing bond bill that the state was passing, I read that they had an ADU provision in there, and that really, piqued my interest, and I kept track of it. And I said, okay, when this comes, I want to build an ADU, and started making plans for it. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm sure there's going to be others in Chelmsford who are going to be interested as well. So I basically registered a Facebook group called Chelmsford Mass ADUs, and said, okay, when the time is right, I'll let the town people know and see if there's other people interested. And then come last year, the state passed the law, which will now be in effect, because they had a 6-month, I guess,
Grace period,
grace
sort of,
period
yeah.
for regulatory approval, all the stuff, etc. And it comes into effect first week of February, and they're in the process of passing the final regulation. They're already draft regulations out. And so I went to the town and the planning and development director, the town manager, and said, hey, you know what? Your LAA bylaw is outdated. I'd like to form a town council, a group of people from the town to help give the town direction. And the planning board of the town of Chelmsford is distinctively anti-development, anti-ADU, and I understand their perspective, because they felt that they were caught off guard with this. The state really didn't have much opposition to the law passing, and now there's a whole bunch of towns up in arms saying, oh my God, we didn't realize this was coming. Well, again, not my fault.
You did, but yes.
And now the state has basically passed a law which says that in every single-family zoned unit and single-family lot, you now have, by default, by right, and it's very important, by right,
By right.
Okay.
without any zoning variances, the right to put an ADU with a number of restrictions that a town can impose. A town can impose site plan review, which basically means you make sure that it fits within the lot. The town can impose what is very important, reasonable setbacks. That means you can't put it right on the front.
The front lawn.
Right next to the street.
But again, they can set reasonable restrictions, but not unreasonable restrictions.
Now, I know in Westford, there's a lot of septic, so that's been an issue on what the workaround is with that. If you have a 4-bedroom house and a 4-bedroom septic and you want to put an ADU on, there's going to be some issues with that they haven't quite worked out completely.
Correct. So again, septic is something that is left to the town to manage on a, as as required basis. So some houses when they're built, they may be built with a excessive septic for leaving grace periods for expansion.
Expansion.
So that's left to the town, and that's something that every ADU will have to comply with. The town of Chelmsford, by what I understand, has the capacity for each house so far with the septic system to basically add on 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, whether it's an ADU or a attached
An
addition.
addition.
So
Wow.
very expansion favorable, really.
Yeah. So
The other thing about Westford
So-
is apparently a lot of those septic systems are antiquated.
Yes.
And wouldn't pass a Title V probably,
Right.
which they only have to essentially do when they're transferred. Is that what happened? Yeah, when they're transferred. But go ahead. So they can't do anything. They can't be unreasonable in all those areas. And another area
Well-
you talk a lot about is access to the ADU, right?
yeah. So again, because typically towns have had a lot of leeway with zoning and creativity, etc. Chelmsford current planning board, being decidedly anti-ADU, decided that they were going to try to pass a bylaw that said every detached ADU has to use the existing driveway of the.
How
of
does
the-
that make sense?
It doesn't. They're trying to put speed breakers and or
Yeah.
hurdles to detached ADUs because they believe that it detracts from the nature of the character of the neighborhood.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. You said that you could see their points on why they're anti-ADU, but why are they anti-ADU?
Again, why are they anti-ADU? I've sort of patented this in the thing because they believe Chelmsford is still Mayberry. Okay.
Okay.
And they don't like any other development. They don't like something disrupting the single family characteristic of a neighborhood. And also from a development standpoint, an ADU, just from a pure taxes standpoint, would likely not fully cover for whatever additional property taxes are generated from an ADU, cover the cost if you have an ADU filled with a couple and 1 or 2 kids even. So I could understand that their perspective, but that's what they should have done with the state before the law passed.
Right. A little, too late in
Yeah.
that sense.
Right, and I think we have to remember that the state was so responsive to the housing limitations
Right.
that we have right now. We call it the housing shortage. What did I read? Something between people between 18 and 35, 65% of them live with their parents
Wow.
or are supported financially by their parents. And because of the housing market not being affordable at all.
Well, but also there's a shortage, and there's like a 20-year shortage.
20-year shortage, right?
Yep.
So the state was out there. Jeff Brem from our Rotary, but who's a head of I think he's president of Lowell Habitat, and he's a noted architect, and he serves on one of the governor's boards. And they were just so welcoming, just so we've got to do something to relieve or alleviate this tremendous shortage. And the other number I saw is the average house transferred in the state of Massachusetts goes to a 56-year-old. 56 years old. Those are the people, Mary, that are selling their house, have enough equity, and can beat out
Yep.
the smaller home
Cash
down the
buyer,
road, cash
right.
buyer. Yeah.
Yep.
So we have these perverse kind of things going on, demanding response, and the state responded.
Yeah, the state did respond, and again, the ADU law is a shared burden. It's not targeted at Chelmsford or Westford or whatever. It's just every town in the state has to comply with it, similar to the MBTA law,
Right, just
et cetera.
yes, mhm.
And what I like about the ADU law is it gives homeowners a chance to take advantage of their own property to do a little bit of development, as opposed to big developers buying a 2 5-acre lot and building townhouses, etc. Here you're giving homeowners who actually have a resource, which is underutilized land, which they have, and there've been paint taxes and trimming and etc.
Back to that.
Mo,
Obviously, a sticking point.
Now you're giving them a chance to develop a income property, develop a retirement property. You know, I live in a 2,500 square foot ranch in Chelmsford. It's great when you're raising a family, but my thought for the ADU is, you know, when I retire and my kids out of the house, maybe, you know, I'll swap. So
Right.
my wife and I will move to the ADU,
Right.
and we'll rent out the big house.
Or the
Now,
kids
Right.
can come in. Or the kids come in with their
or
extended
if you
family.
have
Yes,
an
right.
elderly parent and you want them
Right.
on site, you know,
Right.
it's separate but together.
Yeah. So again, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it gives citizens the chance to take advantage of their existing property so that they don't have to move out. It's additional rental income for, you know, retirement, etc. And obviously, you know, the town is going to have to deal with and there are some negative consequences to ADUs. I'm not sugarcoating it, but it's a shared burden that the state has decided that every single town in the state needs to share because of the housing shortage in Massachusetts.
Right. It's a creative solution that benefits certainly the homeowners.
Right, and again, it's been done before in other states, in other towns,
Yes.
and it's proven to be effective, or one of the effective ways of alleviating a housing shortage.
Amazing. We're looking at Los Angeles now, which I understand has 38,000 ADUs in Los Angeles County. And now, of course, you know,
Burnt to the ground.
and the few remain, and the housing shortage is so steep that it's just become a crazy world out there just to try to find housing. Tell me about attached or expanded ADUs. So, for example, you said you wanted to possibly, you know, do a basement or an addition or an attic. So that would apply in Chelmsford as well, right? They would have those restrictions have to be complying with the state intention.
So the state has passed the law which says that what they call a protected ADU, and it's very important to understand that there's a protected ADU and there's a non-protected ADU. A protected ADU is something that's 900 square feet or less. And basically that by right, by default, applies to ADUs, whether they're attached or detached, of 900 square feet
Max.
or less. And a non-protected ADU, and again, some towns have allowed ADUs of up to 1,200 square feet. That is a non-protected ADU.
And that would be attached or?
Either?
Again, attached or detached, that doesn't really
See, that's not the issue.
really matter. Again, there's no discrimination allowed by towns versus attached or detached. That's also one more thing that Chelmsford never wanted to allow detached ADUs, and that's why they're trying to put a speed breaker on, you know, detached.
Right. The
by-
restriction with the driveway, shared driveway,
Exactly,
or any way that
exactly.
they can.
Yeah.
And they can do that if they get there, because they're in charge of their own town laws, and if they can get something like that passed, then
But as Farokh said on the other day on the Facebook page, it can be challenged pretty readily before the state
Right.
if indeed it is an inhibitor to doing a detached ADU.
Yeah, I mean, again, the law and the state regulations are very, very clear. This is a state mandate and priority. The only restrictions allowed like that for design standards on ADUs are in historic districts, which are 75 years or older, and even that only applies if the town restrictions are not unreasonable enough to either deny an ADU from being built reasonably or being used properly. So unless you're in a historic district, you really cannot discriminate by design standards to say, you know, okay, you can't have another driveway for the ADU. That's what's in the draft regulations. Chelmsford's excuse is, well, it's still in draft. It may change. You know, we've submitted comments to the state asking us to allow us to do that. Come 2 weeks from now, when the regulations are finalized, unless they're drastically different from what's in draft form, I expect them to actually be further clarified, because I've submitted comments to the state to say, please clarify that this is what towns are trying to do to put the kibosh to ADUs. Please clarify in the draft regulations that the ADU, if it's a detached, has the same right to the curb and the sewage system, etc., as the primary house. Otherwise, it's just not going to get built. And the purpose of the law, which is the law, like it or not, will be severely mitigated.
So, what are your biggest challenges? Do you feel like you have a lot of support in Chelmsford for this? Do you need people to come out and attend the town meetings there to, in favor, or be sure that they vote, when it comes to the time for that, or what?
I'll be honest, not really. This is not something that is going to be decided at the town level or by popular vote.
Okay.
This is something that has been decided at the state level. It is by right, and the only thing that the town people, if they don't like it, need to go and petition their state representative to go change the law. Going to town meeting and voting for or against the bylaw is, in my opinion, irrelevant. Whatever bylaw passes, if the regulations come out, as I mentioned on my Facebook group the other day, there's already advocates ready with plans to submit to the towns, not just Chelmsford, but any town. And if they deny it, they've told me we have lawyers standing by to go to mass land court and get the bylaw invalidated. Once your bylaw is invalidated, you basically
Don't have any control over
you
it.
don't have any control.
And what's the response of the government entities in Chelmsford to that?
I think they understand that they're laying out a speed bump. Okay, the planning board is, again, and I watched the sausage get made for the first time, is decidedly, old school, anti-ADU, anti-development. And again, I understand. I live in town. I like the charm of Chelmsford. I don't want to turn Chelmsford into Lowell. But for example, again, I have a 1 acre lot which is side to side. I want to put the ADU on the side, the other half an acre. Okay, some of my neighbors have lots which are 1 acre, but they have the house at the end of the lot. Okay, they have 3/4 of an acre in front that could easily fit an ADU, but Chelmsford, because of their character of the neighborhood, in their bylaw, say no ADU in the front yard. Well, guess what? There's nothing like a front yard anymore, because by default, every single lot is a two-family lot.
Of course, that's right. Exactly right. Every lot is a two-family lot now. That's
Right.
exactly right.
And people need to start thinking that
Yes.
every single lot is a two-family lot within the reasonableness of the 900 square foot ADU. There is nothing like a single-family lot anymore in Massachusetts, and will not be, again, once the regulations come into effect and law comes into effect come the first week of February.
So you understand what they're saying is
I do.
by right, yes, by right now, we can have an ADU, we as homeowners.
So are they worried about infrastructure? If every lot in Chelmsford puts an ADU, which is unlikely, but are they worried about, population or traffic? Is it
Look, the town has reasonable concerns. They're worried about infrastructure. I'm sure they're worried about schools. I think I heard at one of the planning board meetings, somebody said, what happens if 500 of these come up? We need to build another school. Again, I understand the town's concerns. My problem is the town should have been talking to the state about this before the law passed.
Exactly.
That was the responsibility of the town, if they had concerns, to address it to their state representatives.
Yeah.
Maybe get additional state funding for that, etc. I don't know. But now that the law is passed, I think that they got caught sleeping, or whatever you want to call it, and they're trying to do an MBTA
Slow the
law
roll.
again.
Yeah.
Again, Chelmsford got creative with the MBTA zoning, and they're trying to get away with it again with the ADU law. The MBTA zoning law had enough wiggle room for Chelmsford to do that, where they basically zoned undevelopable part of Chelmsford for the MBTA thing.
They designated it. Yes.
Yeah, there's very little wiggle room in the law and the regulations for ADUs. It's very clear that the law simply says you are not allowed to have any discretionary zoning variance requirements for the use or building of an ADU. It has to be very, very, very clear. This is the required setback. If you meet the setback by right, you get to build an ADU detached or attached. This is the septic or requirement or the sewage requirement. If you meet that, you get to build it black letter law by right.
Yep. So I think what we're talking about, the town of Chelmsford, but there are other towns as well.
Yes.
And this is one state, Massachusetts, and other states are looking at Massachusetts. And so I think it's important that we kind of widen the perspective, but this is very, very helpful in terms of
Well,
your
I feel like I have a
experience.
front row seat to this,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really exciting because
Exactly.
it is very uncharted territory in some way, in Massachusetts, having not even gone into effect yet. So once it does,
Yeah, and again, this has been successful, as Mary said, in California in producing tens of thousands of not only again housing units for California, but I think it's very important to stress that the benefit of this has gone to individual homeowners
Yep.
Yes.
and not to big development companies.
Right.
That's the
I
fear,
like
right?
that.
That's a little bit that I heard from the Planning Commission was this fear that it would be rampant development. The floodgates would be open. We would see 5 ADUs on one 2-acre
Block.
property
Yeah.
or something like that.
no,
And
but I
again-
guess potentially there is
There is a cap.
there is, and
Yeah.
I mean that some company could come in like maybe our next guests type company or something that does these and could blanket the way that they sold solar panels, a neighborhood and get those done, and then it does drastically change the landscape, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you have the right to do that on your property as a homeowner.
Right, and again, wherever the law is, people are going to be providing these type of services,
Yes.
and so, again, I seriously doubt there's going to be developers buying up lots and developing it, but there's going to be developers who are going to be available, ADU planned to say, hey, you know what? We've got a cookie cutter for 900 square feet. It's a lot easier to do that, by the way, for 900 than
Right, like a shed business,
Yeah.
only for ADUs.
Exactly. Yeah, you're basically building a rather large shed. Yeah.
How about we're going to build a house on this lot, and would you like an ADU already, or would you like a cabana for your pool, or whatever it is, the sky's the limit. Have any developers actually been responding to the proposed rules from Chelmsford? Have you seen any sign of developers?
Not for Chelmsford specifically, but when I attended the state comment hearing, there were developers who were there, and I've had discussions with developers for Chelmsford regulation, etc. Again, there's a lot of towns trying to do a lot of creative things to put, like the speed breakers into things. I don't think that the developers are very worried about individual towns because, again, the state regulations and laws are very, very clear about what's allowed, and I think that any of these ADU builder suppliers are pretty confident that, again, unless the state regulations drastically change between now and 2 weeks from now, which I doubt, if anything, I believe they'll get more clarified and stricter, having seen what some of the towns are trying to put the kibosh, because the law basically is designed and states that they're favoring ADUs. They're trying to encourage ADUs. They're not trying to help towns put the kibosh to it.
Exactly. They're very open-minded.
Well, but because housing is an issue, and it is one way to alleviate that.
So much fun. Farokh, a relative of mine in Washington, D.C., is connected to the State Department, and he and his partner, also married to a State Department person, help people find turnkey properties in the United States, people overseas whose housing is being provided, et cetera, et cetera. They have the resources. They want to invest in real estate. So they're very involved in turnkey. Well, apparently the husband of this woman that with whom my nephew has business is actually out there creating software to identify all of the restrictions, opportunities, rules, and regs by every major community to make it available. Apparently, he's a genius and he's working on this. So it's so exciting to
That is exciting.
kind of hear what's going on here.
Well, I think that's going to be the challenge, community to community. You know, while you have the right by the state to build one, there's going to be different restrictions like setbacks and some other things that will be town specific. And it's similar to what we run into in residential real estate.
Exactly. Yes, good. So are you planning an ADU for your property?
I am. I already have a site plan ready. Again, not every plot is going to be conducive to building an ADU cost effectively.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What do they cost?
They cost anywhere from $150,000 to $450,000. It really depends on what size, how you do it. I mean, you could basically take a 2-car garage, convert it into a nice 1-bedroom, and rent it out.
Yeah.
And the town can't stop you. So again, to do that, it would probably be under $100,000 to do a attached. Again, you're talking something in the ones. To do a detached, you're probably talking something in the 2s. If you want to make it really fancy, in the 3s.
Okay.
Yes, and there's financing available. There's all kinds of creative financing, doing HELOC possibly, home equity, line of credit, or a separate loan. Of course, interest rates are way up now. And so, it's there's a whole industry around it. Yeah,
it's so
fun.
intriguing
It
and
is
exciting.
Fun. Yes, it is fun. Well, we have so enjoyed talking with you today, and you are so articulate and informed, and I would say I'm appreciative of your balanced approach to this issue. And it's a treat.
I thank you for your time, and like that, I think it's important for Massachusetts to be able to take advantage of the opportunity that the state has provided them.
Yes, great. Well, we'll continue this conversation, and at a future time, maybe in about 6 or 12 months or so, we'd love to have you back and see what's happening again in terms of this issue.
Right. And in the meantime, what's the Facebook page?
It's Chelmsford, Mass. MA ADUs.
Okay, great. So people get on there.
There are a lot of people on it.
There's about 100 people now, a little bit under 100.
All right. Well, there's
exactly
room for many more. So
and maybe we can post this interview on your page. I'll give it to you, the link to you. You can just post it. Great.
That'll be great.
Good. Oh, good. Any parting words for us, Farokh?
No, just I'm looking forward to the final regulations coming out in a couple of weeks, so that we can go to the town and think, this is what the final thing is. Do you want to get on board, or do you want to fight the law?
And one more time, thank you for your advocacy.
Well, and when you build your ADU, we want to
tour.
Yeah.
Yes, and we need to invite you over to our house so you can see the 2 acres I mow, okay?
Definitely.
That's right, Mary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you for...
Mary, Mary, and Mary, so extraordinary. Well, now they're talking about houses, they're talking about home. They're married to real estate.